Hello, everyone. I'm Carliss Chatman, and I'm your host of Getting Common. In my day job, I'm an associate professor at Washington and Lee's Law School. Today's episode is a part of our Entrepreneurship Series, and I'll be highlighting Dawn Dickson, a serial entrepreneur who has founded 6 companies since 2001. I'm very excited to talk with Dawn today because she also holds patents and is an angel investor and a business advisor. So I hope we can give other entrepreneurs some tips on what she's looking for when she invests in a business. Now let's get into the discussion. Dawn, I gave a brief introduction of you, but I would love to hear how you introduce yourself in your elevator pitch.
I definitely call myself a serial entrepreneur, inventor, investor, author. So, that's that's what I thought. I'm CEO of PopCom, but it's just I have so many businesses now. I just put it in the serial entrepreneur category.
So what did you do before you starting your own businesses?
I've pretty much been an entrepreneur my whole adult career. I had a corporate job for about 8 months before I quit to start my first business in 2001. So I've been a full-time entrepreneur since 2001.
Oh, wow. So you only worked corporate for 8 months.
Yeah,
What kind of corporate experience did you get?
I worked at Nationwide Insurance, and I worked for an company that is a subsidiary of Nationwide Insurance called Insurance Intermediaries, and I was doing marketing and business development for Nationwide Insurance agents and helping them to. I was marketing brokerage products, and it was a transition time in the business because they were moving from faxes as a marketing tool to email. So I went to school for information technology and also went to school for journalism. And so after I finished going to school for IT, I was really savvy, with the internet, and I could build websites and I could do a lot of things like a code that people couldn't do. And so the job was a marketing role, but it really was a job bringing that company into the 20th century at the time, bringing that company from faxing to web-based marketing.
So what made you decide to take the leap so short into your corporate career?
Because I really came in and changed the way they did business and really improved their systems by taking them from paper to online. And I realized that I could do that for myself. And there are a lot of other industries that need to move from paper to online. And I had a skill set that they couldn't afford me, basically.
Wow, that's awesome.
I mean, even though I got paid well, I was getting paid as a 21-year-old, 45,000 a year. But it still was like, I know it's worth more than this. I know my skill set is valuable.
So what was the first company that you started?
It was called the Urban Star, and it was an entertainment and event site. So I took all of the paper flyers that everybody would hand out to let you know what parties or events to go to and made that digitized. So I created an online site for entertainment events, restaurants, concerts. It sounds regular now, but back then there was no social media. There were no such thing as a smartphone. And the only way to find out what was going on was to get a flyer in your hand or word of mouth. And so we were one of the first websites in the country that were actually just a purely event and entertainment site.
And I think, the kids don't understand that before Instagram, like I remember those days when like my sorority would be hosting a party and you literally would have to see it posted somewhere or somebody would leave one on your car. There was no way to know what was going on. There was no Instagram.
And then it's like, what if you miss out on one of the flyers, or like, there's so many different options. And then also you can't tell if it's a good event. How do you pick? So we also had like a feature on our site where we would show like how the club looked on the inside. So we would do pictures and videos, and we would do the streaming video before YouTube. So, in hindsight, it was very revolutionary, and I would have been a multi-millionaire off of that if I would have been in Silicon Valley, but we were in Ohio. We were young, just building technology in Ohio. And even though I did really well in Ohio, I certainly didn't make millions off of that business. It was just a good lifestyle business.
So what was your first, I'm making millions off the business?
I think that the first one would be what the business is now. And still, my personal millionaire status really comes from owning multiple businesses that are multi-million-dollar businesses, and then me making investments with the money that I make as a business owner, reinvesting those things and generating money. So I've never had like a company pay me a salary of millions.
Mhm.
You know, it never work like that, because obviously if you have a business that makes millions of dollars, that means you have overhead. And so $1 million businesses have a lot of expenses. For example, easily for my payroll and my bills to be $150,000, $200,000 a month. So
Wow.
right. And that's at a low end. I have friends who definitely are spending $1 million a month just in operational costs. So the bigger the business, you know, the bigger the expenses. That's why sometimes as an entrepreneur, I think about how big do I want the business to get. If you want to make a certain salary, you can do that without having a big business. You just pay yourself more and keep the business as a smaller business. So you got to really think about what you want out of it. So having my tech company is now worth $26 million. So I'm 39% owner. So there alone, just in net worth value, that puts me in the millions category. But of course, you can go to the grocery store and spend equity and buy groceries. So I got to pay myself a salary, and I do pay myself a competitive CEO salary, but I take my salary and I make other investments. And that's how generally people become wealthy, not from a salary, but from ownership, equity, inheritance, dividends, and things of that nature.
So what kinds of companies are you focusing on now when you're choosing what to invest in?
Um, Now I just things that I'm interested in, things that I like, things that I can add value, things that I have, knowledge of, because I invest in early stage companies like startups, because I know a 5, 10, $20,000 check can go a very far way for a company that's just getting started. So I want to add more than money, so I can bring connections or help bring customers. So I definitely like to invest in things that I can add value to the founder beyond just money. And then I invest in things on my own. I mean, my husband and I are always like opening up new businesses and trying new things in our communities, just different passion projects. So I do invest in those things. I invested in a restaurant, yoga studio, a VR studio, a RV business, all in the past year. And these are things that we've opened up, no, past 2 years, things we've opened up in Columbus where we live. So, and then I invested in about 20 other startups and small businesses that I don't run.
Wow. One thing I work with small businesses, and one thing people in the community say is, Amazon is not paying your property taxes. Amazon is not gonna, be at your school, the person at your physical school drive.
Yeah.
And so I love that you are having these nationwide companies, these big super companies, but then bringing it back home to build those smaller businesses, because that really is what the backbone of a community is.
It is. And really, I mean, yeah, all small businesses are the backbone of this country, really. Most people, that's who is employing most people besides, a Walmart or Amazon. But when you think about in the community, it's a lot of small businesses that are the ones keeping things going. And that's why when small businesses were the one hurt the most during the pandemic and not getting these bigger checks that the larger corporations are getting, it was a rough time for a lot of businesses. I'm just happy that all of us seem to have made it out on the other side, but it definitely was challenging for me as well.
So what companies are you personally owning and focusing on now?
I'm the CEO of PopCom, so that's my everyday job. This is my PopCom office right here, and it's what I do. This is my like job, right? Like I have a job and I get a salary. Then I have companies that I own, including Flat Out of Heels, which are rollable flats for women, and I've had that business for 11 years now. Yes, 11. And then my company D1 Consulting Group, that's my personal business, where now I just do coaching, and my book is coming out under that. I do my speaking engagement under that business, but I've been doing consulting for 15 years. So it's just like various things that I've done, mainly marketing, business development, fundraising for the past 15 years underneath, now 16 years under D1 Consulting. Then I have a company called the Bougie Nomad, which I'm actually selling now. And it's a RV and glamping business. It does really well. It's a camper that I rent on Outdoorsy, and it's a nice business, a very good cash flow business. It's one of my favorite businesses that I have. The only reason I'm just selling it, I'm just ready to liquidate some things, but it did well. It definitely makes money, never had a losing month. So I would say anybody getting interested in like the camping and glamping is a really booming industry that's growing fast and very little representation of Black people. So it's really great opportunity to make money. The yoga studio, I transitioned to a space for that people can rent out for multiple things. So now My husband opened up a VR escape room. So we have that, and it's using like Oculus headsets, and you go through like a escape room, but you're in virtual reality. So that opened up last month, and it's doing good. It's just a new business, a new concept. So something we're trying. Right before COVID, I opened a restaurant with some friends, and I exited that. So I sold my share. So I helped to grow the business, launch it, open it up, get it all launched. And after 8 months, I sold my part of it. So that was great because that was my first exit, and it's still going on. It's still successful, and I still go there and eat, but I'm not the owner. So my dream is that all of these businesses go on without me, and I'm not the owner, but I can still support them and, be a customer.
That's a very unusual approach, I would say. And that's why I think it's important to seek out investors who are like you. Because I find, a lot of people will take money from people who aren't like them. They'll take money from the big VC firms, and those people's goal is to keep the company, not to exit. So I think, it's important to know what kind of investor you are getting as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true. There's so many different types of investors. Obviously angel investors were people, you have crowdfunding, you have venture capital, you have um then you can go, the bank route. But it is important to when you are starting the business to kind of understand where you want to go with it, so that can kind of shape the path and the approach. For example, if I was building a family business that I want to keep in my family for 100 years and be one of those family businesses, you shouldn't take investor money. They're not going to get their money back anytime soon, and it would take decades, for you to do that. So that's why generally using debt and loans is how people build those kind of businesses. But if you want to build a business that you're going to sell, and then there's going to be some liquidity there, then that's a good opportunity for investors because you can show them that you're going to be able to give their money back. So it just depends on what you want, where you want to go with it. And also, how long do you want to devote to it? Some of my businesses, like the RV business, I just started it just to do it for 2 years. That was my plan. I'm going to do this business for 2 years, get some money out of it, enjoy the RV for personal use, and then flip it. And I'm doing that now. But PopCom I've had for 10 years. So I knew I was in a long journey. Flat out I've had since 2011. So now we're almost on 12 years. So I knew that was going to be a long journey, but I'm ready. 15 is long enough for me. So I'm planning my exit.
Now let's talk about Pop Shop. It is in airports, right? Explain to everyone what it is, because every time I tell people about you and your businesses, we all realize we have used them, including the flat out heels and the Pop Shop. So let's start with that one.
Well, PopCom is the business, and we build hardware and software. Pop Shop is one of our products, and it's a vending machine that essentially brings the e-commerce experience to vending. It has all of the features, functionalities, technology of a website, but then the product just dispenses on site. So it just really makes it easier for people to sell products direct to customer faster, and don't have to worry about shipping. And it's just a great way to just get a product out without opening your own brick and mortar location. And so during COVID, a lot of the small businesses, they really were the most impacted, and people started to shop local more because of supply chain and logistics. So my head of business development over at PopCon came up with a great idea to come up with a program called Pop Shop Local, where we feature locally made, locally sourced products in the vending machines in airports, hotels, and locations where, it will give exposure to local brands, and also help local brands get the platform to really grow, an opportunity to be seen in these venues where the barrier to entry is very high. And so that's what we're doing now. We have 12 machines out now, and we're raising money actually now on Start Engine to put out 10 more. And then we're going to then focus on a strategic partnership to then really, really scale. But our goal, like as a company, is to launch the first 24 on our own and really just demonstrate it, and then take that model and partner with another company that really can help us to scale that. But we're always looking for local small brands in all the markets. So like not even small. I mean, we really focus on brands that are doing $500,000 plus in revenue, because they generally have the money they can invest in a new type of distribution or marketing channel. But we're always looking for like small businesses that would like to be in airports and hotels to apply for Pop Shop Local.
So tell us some places where we could find the Pop Shop machines.
I mean, yeah, there's one in Columbus Airport. There's one in New York Hilton. There's one in Metron, San Francisco, Concord Mills Mall, North Carolina. There's one, I'm trying to think of all the locations in Dallas, Texas. There's one in LA in the Beverly Center Mall. So we're just like really focusing on high traffic, popular venues, hotels. There's a few malls because Beverly Center is a tourist destination mall. So it's, it gets good traffic. But we have one in Qatar. We have one, oh goodness, I know I'm leaving out Cleveland, Ohio. New one going into Atlanta next week. And we have one going into a university. So we have, we're rolling out 10 more. We're just continuing to place them. But right now you can just look for them kind of in a location near you, or go on our website, popcom.shop, and we have like a location where you, like a location finder. So you can just see a map of where they're all at.
Yeah, I saw one in Dallas, which made me, reach out to you. And it's just really a cool, it just makes sense, right? It's so convenient, right? When you think about, if you want to shop, if you want, and you don't want to, and everyone is doing self-checkout, and that's super annoying. And to be able to get products on your own in an easy way, direct, instead of dealing with brick and mortar and dealing with all the hassle, like it's really, really a brilliant idea.
Thank you. That's what I thought, and it took me actually 10 years to execute that. At now, I put my first vending machine, it took 2 years, but I went through 5 different prototypes, 5 different machines before I finally found the one. So it's a long journey. So I really appreciate that you used it and you saw it, because I mean, for a long time, I wasn't even sure. I felt it inside, like I knew I could do it, but like every obstacle possible was coming to keep me from doing this and seeing it through.
Now, what made you persevere? What was your make or break moment when you said, I'm going to push forward and do this anyway? I've got other businesses, but this one is the one.
Well, I still don't think I know how to do it. This one is the one. I think that's my problem. I can't pick a business. But listen, I have 3 that I really love. So I think because I know the demand, right? Like the business that has the most customer demand and most interest gets me excited, because of course everybody wants to be in business and make money, and you make money from customers. And these businesses, like flat out, no matter what, I mean, flat out will sell shoes with me doing nothing, as long as I have that website up. No marketing, nothing. They'll find it and they'll buy those shoes. So like, I know I'm never going to get rid of that business, because there's a customer base that it's so passive. I could put a lot of money into it, and a lot of money into marketing and take it really, really far, or I could let it be a passive income generating business with very little overhead. It's my decision. So I'm never going to get rid of that one. With PopCom, it was so different and disruptive as far as for the vending industry to use things like facial recognition, which we use, and machine learning, and the technology that I had my team integrate into the machine. It was just so new that I knew it was like game changing. And I was happy that I was the one that had this idea and the ability to do something that's changing the whole industry. So that made me keep going. And I know that anything that's game changing, industry changing, and changes customer behavior is very hard and takes time. It's just not going to be easy. And I was, I'm up for it. And, what kept me going is that every time an obstacle would come, a customer would come wanting it. And I knew that if I built it, I would get customers. And so I didn't stop. But if there was a moment where like people didn't want it, I definitely wouldn't have invested millions into building these products in 10 years into doing this. But they want it. And they've proven that now today the product is out and they are buying, and I have some great customers.
So what I find interesting about you as well is that you are an inventor. And you hold patents, right? Which is very unusual for Black people. I think it's something like 2% of all patent holders are Black in the United States.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. And that's one thing that fascinated me. So, what are your patents for, and how did you become an inventor and decide to go ahead and patent things?
So I have 1 patent awarded, I would love to take credit for more, but I have 1 patent awarded, and then I have 1 patent pending, a utility patent that could just take some time to get through. And I think that, understanding intellectual property and the power of ownership of an idea, concept, a way of doing business, a system, is how the American titans were able to become wealthy. And, many of the inventions that are the inventions that shaped our industry, shaped our society, were actually invented by Black people, and we were not allowed to hold patents. We were not allowed to put our name on things. And so when I started to get out into the world of like raising money, and they say, do you have something, is this defensible? Do you have any intellectual property? It made me start thinking deeply about everything that I did and say, can I build something that is patentable? Can I invent something that can be, secured, and that actually adds more value to my business, is something that no one else can do or have? So that's what made me say, okay, can I patent anything from my vending machine? And so I patented the design of the machine. The design is very unique and different, and it's something that no one else has done. So I've done that. And now I'm working to patent the process, so the utility of the software. And that takes a little bit longer because we integrate so many different technologies into our software that we have to show that how we're using the technology is different. And things happen every day, every day, every day. So the patent examiner will come back and forth, we go back and forth. So sometimes it can become a definitely a long process, but it's worth it. And IP is beyond a patent. You can have a copywriting your content. You can trademark things. And so I have multiple trademarks and also copyright on content. So just like anything that you can protect, it does add value.
Absolutely. And I think, lots of people, I tell people, don't give your intellectual property away for free, right? Like, watch doing things on the internet for free, because it's hard to get someone to invest in a business when you don't actually own anything.
Yes.
If all you have is a book, that's actually not enough anymore.
Exactly. It's just, or, it's not enough as far as defensibility, or just at scale, because at the end of the day, you need something that no one else can duplicate. It's just, or you got to be the first to market and make it viral. You got to be the first one. How there's so many things that have come out over the years, and like the first person to put it out got really popular, and then everybody would jump on it because they didn't have a patent on it, but they were the first one, so their brand is the one that's the most recognizable. What I like to use an example of very good branding is Kleenex. Kleenex is a brand, but people will be like, hand me a Kleenex. Can you bring me a Kleenex? It could be a Target brand tissue. Somehow Kleenex has been able to build such a strong brand that they call every tissue Kleenex when it's not. And so if you can't patent something, they certainly didn't invent tissue. It's just tissue. If you can't patent something, you better build a hell of a strong brand to where people don't even want the other product, because your brand, even though it's not even better, your brand says something and means something. Same thing for like a bottled water. How many bottled waters are out there? Why is some bottled water $1 and some $5? It definitely comes down to the brand a lot of times, because when they test these bottled waters, this be tap water. So it's the brand. You see that brand, oh, I want this brand because Life Water looks pretty on the bottle. Whatever that is, that's giving you that edge. It doesn't mean your bottled water tastes better. So that's what I tell entrepreneurs who can't patent something. Like me, I couldn't patent my flat outs because I didn't invent the functionality of a shoe that rolls and folds, but I can create a brand that's recognizable and that people really, really support.
So when you are choosing to invest in other businesses, when you're operating as an angel investor, what kind of things are you looking for? And first, actually, tell folks what an angel investor is for us.
A person, an accredited individual, so generally a high net worth person that invests their own money, that they have their own money into businesses that they want to support, invest in, or believe in. It's the difference between a venture investor. They're investing other people's money. Angels invest their own money, and angels generally write smaller checks. I mean, maybe between $5,000 and $250,000. That's a big angel, and they do some do exist. But generally, I've found in my experience, my largest angel investment check from an individual was $100,000.
And, could you explain to folks, some people think it takes $1 million to start a business. And clearly, if your biggest angel check was 100, it did not take you $1 million to get started. What are the kind of,
it depends on the kind of business. Some businesses do cost $1 million to get started. Don't build one of those if you don't think you're going to be able to get the money. So, it's really important to understand before you start how much it's going to take you to get to your path to profitability, and how much is required to really build that business. I mean, like you said, it's like, it can feel like $1 million if you're building what I'm building. It cost me $6 million to get in business. That's a lot. I didn't anticipate that. That was not the plan. But flat out cost me $10,000 to get into business. And I mean, really in business, inventory, website, all the things that I needed for a whole business, Microsoft licenses, emails, and everything I needed for the whole business, promo items, flyers, $10,000.
that's
Started.
amazing.
This was 12 years ago, but that wasn't a lot. And then I was able to turn that into couple $100,000 within my first year. So that was good. And it was just me working in another person, so I could live off of that. I pay myself a salary and live off of that. I never had the desire to turn it into $1 million business, because I said, if I'm gonna make $1 million, I'm gonna pay out a half. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to do that. I'll just make enough to pay me what I want to pay me. And that's why it's called a lifestyle business, as opposed to like you building it on to an enterprise.
So when you are acting as an angel investor, what are the things that you look for? I imagine some of it is gut. I talked to a lot of angel investors who are like, I just had a feeling this is a good one. But on the gut, what are the things that you look for in what you think will be a successful investment?
I mean, it really comes down to the founder. People always told me, and now I really know it's true, is people don't invest in the business, they invest in the person and the founder. Like, can you do this? What makes you the best person to do this? What makes, like, do you have what it takes? Are you not going to quit and just walk away and be like, I'm not going to do this, forget this investor money? I like somebody that's going to go hard for the business. They believe in it. They're going to ride it out, and they care. They want to return the investor money. They also want to build something for themselves. So, like, what is your why? Why are you doing this? It can't ever just be for money, because that never works. So it has to be something else. And when your why is strong enough, you'll never give up. You'll never quit. That's why I've never quit. And so I failed, but I never failed in business because I never gave up. I never quit. Even in the moments where it seemed like no other way, I still didn't quit. I look for people like that.
And have all of your angel investments been successful, or have you seen any pitfalls so far?
And have failed yet, but success, how do you measure success? So is success the businesses are still in business and they're generating money? Yes. Is success as an investor a return to me? I haven't got a return yet. So as an investor, my success is, do I get my money back? Do I make the right investment that's going to give me a return? But I won't know that, because you have to understand, you're going to hold an investment minimum of 5 years, likely 10. So when I invested in these businesses in 2020 and 2021, I'm investing for my future. I'm investing for when I'm 50, 51, 52, in my 50s. So I don't even think about it. As long as they're still in business, they're still trying, cool, you working for us. I don't really bother them. I give them time. So we'll see. Let's circle back in 5 years and see how successful of an angel investor I am, how good my bets are, because it's really just placing bets. You really don't even know. All bets. Even you look at these big companies that end up failing, that venture capitalists put hundreds of millions of dollars into, and they fail. That was a big bet, and it was wrong. Mm-hmm. So everything could look good. All of the patterns could align, and it could be wrong and it could fail. Or it could be like all the odds against it. No way this business should do this. And it takes off, and it's the one. It really comes down to like betting.
So I think you don't brag on yourself enough, because, the SBA statistics are that 90% of businesses fail within a year, right? Yeah. So you've got your angel investments that have lasted more than a year, and you have all of your businesses lasting more than a year. So you're already in the top 10%. Like you're outperforming the VCs. 90% of VCs fail. and you've got businesses that have made it more than a year. So I think your formula is, you probably should be teaching it and charging more for teaching it.
Thanks. I think you're right. And I think to myself, I definitely give myself credit for being in business, staying in business through 2 recessions, still making money, still support myself all of this time. But I'll say to myself, well, why don't you make more money? Like, why don't you make more millions? I've raised millions, but why aren't you generating millions in revenue? And I think that's what the society will judge us as success. But like I said in the beginning of this, I haven't tried, especially on the flat out side. I like being a lifestyle business that generates income. And I had to embrace that. Like, hey, if you wanted to have a multi-million-dollar revenue business, you could have done that. You did not do any of the things required to do that because that's not what you really want. And so I think for me, I'm just now as in my career now in the 22-year mark. And I'm like, okay, I'm looking back on my career like, this has been successful because I've done what I wanted and what I felt was success and good for me, not measuring myself on anyone else's success metric or comparing myself. But for years, I did compare myself. I did until I finally said, you know what, I'm on my own path and I'm going to do things my way. So I appreciate you putting in that perspective, like, just being around 15, 16 years in business and every single year making money for 15, 16 years straight is definitely something to be proud of.
Absolutely. And I think when I counsel students and I talk to entrepreneurs, so many people want to be the next Mark Zuckerberg, or they want to be the next Bill Gates.
Pay me to be him. That stress level, no thank you.
Well, and I think what people don't realize is there are lots of folks like you who are able to build successful businesses and operate for 20 plus years and have the lifestyle that they want and the balance that they want without trying to scale so big so fast. Like, yes. Not every business is Microsoft.
Yes, because think about it. Okay, let's say as a CEO, you're like, let's say you want to make $500,000 a year. That's reasonable. Okay. You can go and just build a business that makes, let's say, 2.5 million a year in revenue, pay yourself $500,000 and the rest be operations. You don't got to do all of that. Or you can go build this huge business like a Microsoft, which that CEO makes that much money. They do way more work. They have way more overhead, way more stress. You're making the same amount. You have way less stress. Same thing when entrepreneurs talk about like building a business to being a unicorn. If you're a unicorn, which is a $1 billion valuation, you as the founder likely own less than 3% of that business. So you are not a billionaire. So what are you really? You might be a 10, 20, 50, even 100 millionaire, say 100 million. You can get to be 100 millionaire without having a $1 billion business. You don't have to do that. You just build a business that's worth a couple 100 million and don't sell all your equity. Keep it for yourself. So there's different ways to get to that outcome. If you're judging it by like a certain amount of money you want, and that's how I kind of gauge it, how much money do I want to bring into my house? I judge it off of that instead of like what it looks like to the public. Is my business worth X $1 million, but how much is really in my pocket? And that's what I think people should think about more. What are you really going to bring home after all of that? Because the overhead and the operational costs are so high to run these businesses that you're not really left with a lot to pay yourself as a CEO and founder.
Now, we've mentioned balance and lifestyle a lot, and we haven't discussed how you are both a wife and a mother, and you are operating in multiple locations. How do you do all of that and run all your businesses?
I think, well, now my daughter's in college, so I'm an empty nester now, but I did have her. I was an entrepreneur her whole life because she's 18, and I definitely had a lot of support. I will not pretend like I have not had a tribe and my family that was helpful, and friends. I definitely have needed a lot of support to do that. Now I'm in a different place, and my husband and I, we've been together for 3 years. So I was a single mom all these years doing this. I can't give advice on how to balance it all with a young child and a husband. I don't know how to do that, but I will say there's no balance. It's always about prioritizing what's important, who and what's important at that time. So I just every day set my priorities And some days my family and my daughter are the priority and work has to wait. Some days work's a priority and family has to wait. Some days I can give them almost equal attention, but I don't feel bad about any of those things because I make sure that everything important to me receives its own time and becomes a priority when it's appropriate.
It is amazing that you were single parenting for most of your daughter's life while launching these businesses. Like, that is phenomenal.
Yeah, I did, but I did have a lot of help with my mom and my family and co-ops. I homeschooled my daughter since second grade, but I had communities of homeschool parents that were very, very helpful.
And how are you balancing, you're in Ohio, or do you also have offices in Atlanta?
No, COVID changed things. So I used to have that ambition of offices everywhere, but now we don't need that, right? I have my laptop and some Wi-Fi. So I work from LA a lot, Atlanta a lot. That's where my daughter goes to school. Columbus is where my office is. I do have an office. This is it. And this is exactly what it looks like. And it's in Columbus, Ohio. And mainly it's just used for like team meetings. And we have now several vending machines and products in there that we go in there and test with. And then I have a couple other, brick and mortar locations, but I really love this remote work from anywhere life. And I don't want any more brick and mortar physical locations. So I really love that now since, COVID happened, it's much more accepted to be everywhere. So I work from all over the place. I mean, I travel constantly. Nobody ever really knows where I'm at because I'm always in the office on Zoom. And that's all that matters.
And do you allow all of your employees to work from home as well?
Oh yeah, they can do. It was like that before because I built a business that I wanted to work for. So a lot of the rules that we had before COVID about like everybody could work from home whenever they wanted. We always had unlimited vacation days and time off. There's no PTO whenever you don't want. Are you sick? Okay, get better. Unlimited sick days, unlimited, because I work with people that are responsible and they know how to manage that. And it's always went well because what's the point of like being an entrepreneur if you got to work for a company with all the rules you hate? I got to create the rules. So the culture of the company is the culture that I wanted to work for. And luckily I found other people that like this culture as well. So it's very flexible. It's very free. I encourage people to do other things like, hey, get a side hustle, get a hobby. Do you want to be an entrepreneur? So most people on my team are entrepreneurs and have other things they do, just like me. How could I have 5 businesses and then tell them they can't do anything else? That's insane. So, we have health and wellness reimbursement. So like if you go to the gym or want to get a massage, we'll reimburse you for that once a month for something that's a self-care reimbursement. We do just like, I'll treat them to dinners and send Uber Eats. Definitely during the pandemic, they were always getting Uber Eats gift cards just to try to brighten their day and treat them to a meal and things like that. So the culture is just so important for a company. You can pick the culture. You pick how you want things to go.
I love that you consider culture to be self-care and wellness and like trusting instead of being physically in the building. I feel like you're going to get 100 job applications when people
Definitely,
hear how
my
you
team,
run your
they
business.
stay. I will say my team stays. We don't have a lot of turnover. I've worked with the same people for a long time. If they're not there anymore, it just was like timing for the business. But I do create an environment that people want to be in. That's what my goal is. I want them to be happy at work. I want them to want to come and want to log in to Slack every day. We open our day every day. The team check-in is a gratitude every day for years, like 6 years. Every day we check in what you're grateful for in the morning. That's your way of like clocking in. Like, what are you grateful for today? Because it's always something to be grateful for. And so it was, just another way of just driving that culture.
That's amazing. I wish everyone's workplaces would operate that way. I really do.
Thank you.
Now, you mentioned that, when you pursue other businesses, you want to know what the entrepreneur's why is. So I'd love to hear what your why is. What makes you keep going?
Definitely generational wealth and really creating a mindset and a shift for my people and just showing them like my why is to create more wealth in my community, really by education and being an example. And then by, I have 10,000 plus investors. And I would say 90% of my investors are Black, non-white. And that's big because it's not a lot of times in history where this many Black people had the opportunity to get into early stage investing. Actually never happened before, never in history, until, the Jobs Act, where you can get into these deals. So I really want to have a big win. That's my why, like changing the way that we move with money, really showing like you can invest and get your money back, helping to instill trust in each other as business people. So many times we'll be like, even growing up, oh, it's a Black business, it's just automatically expected to be not top tier. Changing the expectation of dealing with each other and doing business with each other. And that is something that's like my why. Of course, on the deeper side, my daughter, creating a legacy for my family, for the future of my family. What do I want my great grandchildren? What do I want their lives to be like? I need to put things in place today for that. Where do I want them to grow up? What kind of environment? Do I want them to be somewhere where they can get shot going to school or the grocery store, or where a woman could be raped and not get an abortion? Like, do I want them to be in a country like that? So a big motivation has been moving my family out of the United States. So that's my underlying why.
That's amazing. I vibe with all of that. Like, it's so meaningful and it's so important because, it really is, about building legacy and building community. And I appreciate what you're doing and how you are running your workplace and just, everything that it is you're doing. So my next question for you is, how can me and my listeners support you and your businesses and all the fabulous things you are doing?
Well, thanks for asking. Definitely the top of mind is, hey, if you like what I'm doing with PopCom, Pop Shop Local, you want to support, I would love to have you as a member of our investor community. We have over 10,000 investors, minimum investment $100, and it's at startengine.com/PopCom. Also, just, support my content. I have blogs if you're an entrepreneur just interested in like the topics about building your board and not getting fired from your company, how to create ownership, how to crowdfund, how to build a team, how to build a company culture. It's free content I have on my Medium. So just read my Medium blog. That's great support for me because I'm writing a book, and the more people that read my blog, it just shows like, hey, people will be interested in reading my book. So that's a free thing. Also, just absorb any of my content on YouTube. It's out there to help. And I put a lot of time into sharing content. So I want it to be heard. And I have a really good podcast called Bars, and I interview some of the country's top entrepreneurs, and it's on YouTube as well. And just listen to that, and I hope that it does what it's supposed to do, which is to empower all of us and give us access to what we don't know, because a lot of times, and all the time, you don't know what you don't know until you find out, and normally it's the hard way. So if I can try to prevent another entrepreneur or business owner from learning a lesson the hard way, that could be very costly with time and money, I'm always trying to do that. So I put a lot out there to try to help the community not make the mistakes that I made and people before me, because we just didn't have access to how to do it the right way.
And I think that is one advantage of social media, is that now you can get access to someone like you and all of your knowledge, and so much of what you're giving away is free. Right. So it is important to use those resources. There's no need to go in blind anymore.
Yes, no need. I mean, it was when I started 20 years ago, there was no resources, zero, none, especially for building a tech company. They wasn't even called a tech company when I built a tech company. They didn't have that name yet. It wasn't called a startup. That wasn't a name yet. So now it's just like, there's no reason to not know, because it's out there.
So what is next for Dawn Dickson? What are we doing? What are you doing next?
Next, I am really focused on my retirement, and what that means for me. And, in my exit, I want to definitely sell my businesses and give my investors a return. So anybody that ever invested any money with me, I want it all back in their bank account. That really makes me excited every day. Like, let me give all these people money back, because once they get their money back from me, they'll invest in somebody else. I know they will, because they'll have confidence in what investing is. And so that's next for me, is just focusing on that. And then once I do that, and 10,000 plus people have confidence in my word, I'm going to build a community. I'm going to build a town.
I love that. I love that. So like, where would you do this town, or do you have an idea yet?
Out of the country, in Africa.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's amazing.
And whoever wants to come to the town, pull up and let's build a town.
keep me in mind, like keep me posted.
Yeah, so I would take this money I exit with and, definitely build a farm, self-sustaining, and just really just help us get back to our roots of herbs and natural healing and growing our own food and caring for ourselves and having our own businesses and being self-sustaining as a people, as a Black people of the diaspora. Everybody brown is welcome.
Now, I always close out with this question when I talk to my entrepreneurs. If you could go back in time to the 22 years ago when you started, what advice would you give yourself?
I say, girl, keep going because it works. It worked out. Literally everything young Dawn did, mistakes, the good stuff, everything. She did a good job of designing the life for 43-year-old me, and I'm very happy. So just keep doing it. Don't do anything different because it works out. All the things that feel like it's a disaster, it actually works out later. Just keep doing it. Like, I'm serious. All of it. I would not change a single thing. The advice is you don't have to feel bad about what you're doing because at the time, being an entrepreneur was not popular. So I got a lot of flack from my family and people, and homeschooling my daughter and being a vegan in 2007. All these radical things I was doing, I was an outlier for sure. I was an outcast for sure. It was a lonely time. I didn't stop. I kept going, but it was a lonely time. And I would just tell myself, it works out. So thank you for even thugging it out for me, because now I have the life of my dreams, and I wouldn't have it if she wouldn't have kept going.
That is so important for a 22-year-old to hear, because I think it is so easy to conform and so easy to be just like everyone else. And you have managed to carve out a path of success by being you, being true to you, and accepting the failures and not acknowledging them as failures.
Yes, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been an amazing conversation. I'm glad you could carve out the time.
Thanks.
Thank you all for tuning in to Getting Common. If you ever miss an episode, you can catch the rebroadcast anywhere podcasts are streamed, on the Voice America website and on our YouTube channel. Feel free to email me through the show page or to reach out to me on social media. I'm at Carliss C. And then give me all of your handles for all of your businesses, and I'll make sure I upload them and post them.
Thank you. We're PopCom Tech. So PopCom Tech on everything. Flat Out of Heels on everything. And then I'm Dawn Dickson on basically everything. On Twitter, I'm the Dawn Dickson. But everything else, I'm Dawn Dickson. Dickson. I'm on Medium and YouTube, and everything is just Dawn Dickson. So luckily I was able to get my name on lock. So, and then my website, which basically landing page for all things, you can find all of my links, dawndickson.me. So you will find everything there.
All right. And definitely check out Dawn's content. It is phenomenal. It's very informative. There are moments when I'm like, this feels like free law school or free business school. Good. To go to her websites. So take advantage. Thank you so much, Dawn.
Thank you for having me.
No problem.